The power dies mid-sentence. A week later, you can still recite it. You have no idea what you finished reading yesterday. Your brain kept the unfinished string of words and threw away the completed chapter. Unfinished work tapes itself to your memory, and your brain will do strange things to close that loop. Modern screens are full of these loops: the draft email, the open tab, the half-watched video. What if the annoyance of an open tab is actually an ancient attention system that refuses to let go? It was discovered in a restaurant in Berlin in 1927 by a young researcher watching waiters do something they never noticed themselves doing. Bluma Zeigarnik was a graduate student at the University of Berlin. She noticed something odd about the waiters in a busy cafe. They could hold a dozen complex orders in their heads without writing anything down. But the moment a meal was delivered, the order vanished from their memory. Asked what the customer at table 4 had eaten, a waiter who had just finished serving them would shrug. The bill was paid, the food was gone, completed and therefore forgotten, but an order still sitting in the kitchen. Reproduced perfectly. Zeigarnik went back to the laboratory and ran controlled experiments. The pattern held. People remembered interrupted tasks far better than completed ones. The effect now carries her name. The numbers were striking. In Zeigarnik's studies, participants remembered roughly twice as many incomplete tasks as completed ones. The brain, it seemed, files away what is settled and hoards what is not. The waiter's memory was not a talent. It was a knot. Every unpaid tab, every order still cooking, was a loop that required active holding. The moment the plate left his hands, the loop snapped shut and the information was released. This is what an open loop feels like from the inside. You know the feeling. That one email you composed but never sent. The book you were reading when the dog barked. The reply you owe someone. You are not consciously choosing to remember them. They are simply there, taking up space, insisting on your attention. What is the brain actually doing? The leading explanation is attention system. The psychologist Kurt Lewin, who mentored Zeigarnik, proposed that a task creates a quasi-need, a state of internal tension. Completion discharges the tension. Interruption holds it in place. Modern neuroscience points to the prefrontal cortex, the region that keeps goals active. When a goal remains open, those neurons keep firing, holding the representation alive so you can return to it. This is useful in a small way. You do not need to remember to finish your coffee, but you do need to remember to close the gate, pay the bill, chase the client. The system trades your background mental space for the security of not forgetting what matters. But here is the strange part. The system does not care how important the task is. It treats a half-read article and a half-dozen open tabs the same way it treats a deadline you cannot miss. You have probably carried a song lyric around in your head, a few words repeating for days, until the song finally plays and the loop closes. That is the Zeigarnik effect wearing a different costume. The unfinished fragment of a melody is an interrupted goal. Your brain holds it, runs it again, trying to complete the pattern. Finish the song and the loop releases. The music does not have to be a life task. It just has to be unfinished. The same goes for an argument you keep replaying at night. The other person stopped engaging hours ago. You are still holding the loop open because no resolution arrived. Now translate that to your screen. The phone in your pocket is a warehouse of open loops. Every unread notification is an interrupted transaction between you and the world. Every open tab is a sentence you started but never finished reading. Your brain does not distinguish between a waiter's unpaid tab and an email you have left in draft for 3 days. Both are goals in flight. Both demand a closing event. So you check the tab, refresh the feed, reopen the draft, even when nothing new is there. You are not looking for information. You are looking for closure, and the screen keeps the loop open on purpose. Badges, banners, streaks, unread counts. They are all engineered to make sure nothing ever resolves completely. The same system that helped a Berlin waiter hold 14 orders is now held hostage by a company that wants you to swipe one more time. There is a second line of evidence that the effect is not just about memory. The Russian psychologist Maria Ovsiankina, another student in the same circle, found something even more interesting. When people were interrupted mid-task, they spontaneously went back to finish it, even when no one told them to. Put down a half-built tower of blocks, and a child will return to it. Leave a puzzle half done on a table, and most adults will finish it, despite claiming not to care. This is called the Ovsiankina Effect. It is the motor behind the memory. Not only do you remember the unfinished task, your body is tilted toward resuming it. The loop is not just stored. It is active, buzzing under the surface of whatever you happen to be doing. Modern studies have traced the cost of that buzz. The organizational psychologist Sophie Leroy named it attention residue. When you switch away from an unfinished task, a portion of your attention stays behind, like water clinging to a glass. You move to the next thing, but part of you is still drafting that email or replaying that conversation. The more demanding the unfinished task, the thicker the residue. This explains why working in a cluttered head feels so heavy. Every open loop charges a rental fee. You pay it in reduced focus, slower thinking, a background hum of anxiety. The human brain was not built to hold 5 open loops, let alone the 60 tabs sitting in your browser right now. You are not multitasking. You are paying interest on a debt you never agreed to take out. But the effect has limits, and knowing them tells you something about its purpose. The Zeigarnik effect fades when the task does not matter to you. If your waiter hated the job, the orders did not stick. Motivation sets the size of the loop. Meaningless tasks barely register. Trivial tasks close themselves. The effect also depends on the possibility of completion. If a task feels impossible, the mind does not hold it the same way. It writes it off, closes the loop by labeling the goal dead. This is why you can forget a failed project faster than a stalled one. Failure is an ending. A stalemate, on the other hand, is an open loop that you cannot escape. You keep returning to it because the brain refuses to accept that no outcome is coming. Consider what happens when the memory system itself is damaged. Patients with amnesia cannot hold new tasks in mind, and for them, the Zeigarnik effect nearly disappears. Interrupted and completed tasks are forgotten equally. No memory of the goal, no tension, no loop. This suggests that the effect is not a trait of the task, but a product of your brain actively simulating the future. The unfinished task is held because the brain is rehearsing its completion, scanning for the moment when it can be resolved. You are not remembering the task. You are remembering the plan to complete it. That is a different thing, and it is why a written plan can change everything. Here is the practical payoff. In 2011, researchers gave participants unfinished tasks that kept intruding into their thoughts. One group was encouraged to make concrete plans for finishing, down to the when and where. The others were not. The planners experienced a striking drop in intrusive thoughts. The brain accepted the plan as a partial closing. A plan is a proxy for completion, and the loop concedes. This is why writing things down works, not because you have a list. Because you told your mind, I have a path to closure. The loop relaxes its grip, the residue thins, and the prefrontal cortex stops broadcasting the same goal over and over. You did not finish the task. The brain just stopped paying rent on it. Step back. You have an attention system that never throws anything away, a memory that hoards unfinished business. It looks like a design flaw. It might be ancient. Imagine a hunter-gatherer who has started a fire or set a snare. Forgetting to finish the job has a cost measured in survival, not in missed deadlines. A loop that refuses to close until the fire is built, until the snare is checked, until the work is done, is not an annoyance. It is an engine for staying alive. The open tab is the same engine, running on a task that a pre-industrial brain was never designed to process. 1,000 micro-goals generated by machines that never sleep. The system is not broken. The workload is wrong. Back to the sentence that survived the blackout. It stayed with you all week because your brain classified it as an open goal. You were reading toward something, a conclusion, a turn of thought, and the interruption cut the thread. It is exactly the pattern the Berlin waiters demonstrated a century ago. The resolved work faded. The unresolved sentence held. If you can now realize why it held, something important follows. You are not doomed to carry every open loop forever. Loops close when you give them a plan, when you finish them, or when you abandon them honestly. The trick is learning which of those 3 endings you are about to apply, because a stale loop quietly decides what you think about all day. What would happen if you closed your loops on purpose? Not by finishing everything. That is impossible. But by taking every open loop you can find, the draft, the tab, the half-read chapter, and giving each one a verdict. Finish it now, schedule it, or kill it honestly. The brain will accept any of those. What it cannot accept is a loop with no verdict at all. That is the one that costs you focus, scatters your attention, and keeps you checking a screen for something that never arrives. The system that held your unanswered sentence in place for a week is the same system that should have been cleared the next morning. It was waiting for you to close it. So the next time your mind refuses to drop a half-finished thing, do not treat it as a failure of discipline. It is the oldest attention system you own, asking a simple question: is this done or is it not? The annoyance of the open tab, the unfinished email, the unresolved lyric, that is the sound of a brain caring about an outcome. A brain that stopped holding loops open would be a brain that stopped caring about the world at all. The day nothing unfinished follows you home is the day you should start worrying. Until then, hear the hum for what it is. Completed work is remembered only in its absence. The unfinished sentence, still hanging in the dark, is the one your mind chose to keep.